The Second Punic War was in full swing. The sides were actively trying to exterminate each other, at the same time pulling the key zones of control over the Mediterranean from hand to hand. One such point was Syracuse, a large and very wealthy city located on the eastern shore of the island of Sicily. It all began with the fact that the ruler of the city, Geronimus, who actively advocated friendship with Rome, suddenly decided to get tired and part with his life. The place was empty not long, and just a few days to power came to the representatives of the anti-Roman party of the city, Archimedes and Hippocrates. The Republic did not appreciate the joke and chose a proconsul, Appius Claudius, put at his disposal a land army and instructed to take the city by storm. Given that Syracuse, a major port city, the attack decided to support the fleet under the leadership of Marcus Claudius. The commanders decided not to delay and not to give the inhabitants of Syracuse time to prepare for defense. Relying on numerical superiority and the number of working hands, they decided within 5 days to prepare siege guns and go to the attack. They planned to attack from land and sea at the same time. Appius tried to take the walls with the help of assault ladders under the cover of vinhas. These are such portable huts, sheltering from the arrows of the enemy. Marcus Claudius, for his part, took 8 ships and, having tied the sides in pairs, erected on them sambucas, large towers on which it is convenient to storm the walls. Under the cover of 6 dozen ships loaded with archers and slingers, he hoped to approach the walls from the sea to climb the sambucas to the lines of defense and push the defenders off the walls. However, these plans were not destined to happen, because against the power and indestructibility of the Roman army was he, the one and only, a great scientist and inventor, genius of engineering, whose ideas, principles, and inventions formed the basis of mathematical analysis and mechanics, a man who deserves a separate material, and even more than one. And it was he who defended the city where he was born and where he lived most of his life. His technical thought is attributed to various inventions aimed at repelling enemy attack. Some seem absolutely real, and some are somewhat fantastic. However, no one has any doubt that Archimedes played a key role in the defense of the city. Romans on the walls were already waiting. On the far and middle approaches, powerful guns struck the enemy with stones and heavy arrows. The distance at which the shells flew, as well as the lack of opportunity to respond, brought confusion and fear in the advancing forces. There was nothing to think of storming. The soldiers simply could not attack. Annoyed, Marcus Claudius was forced to make an attempt to attack at night. However, when they got close enough to the walls, the Romans were again confronted by the genius of Archimedes. According to his instructions, holes were made in the wall, at about the height of a man's height, at which archers and small scorpions became archers. Thus the men who came under the walls were taken by surprise by a barrage of arrows. Many were killed. In spite of this, the Romans still attempted to secure the sambucas behind the walls in order to make an attack on them. Archimedes, however, and now was ready. Hitherto hidden machines came into action. They dropped piles of lead or huge stones weighing up to 250 pounds on ships and siege guns, destroying and sinking them on the spot. Some of the defensive machines were in the shape of a crane with a kind of iron foot attached to its end. If it somehow clung to the bow of the ship, the defenders used gates to lift it up with the ship, and then simply dropped the helpless ship down with the men. From such blows, many ships were damaged or sunk, causing impressive damage to the Romans. On the land front, too, it was not sweet. Defense techniques were similar to the sea and no less effective. Having assessed the situation, Appius Claudius decided to abandon the assault and take the city by force. The city was kept under siege for 8 months, and it fell. However, not from hunger and disease, but from the cunning and observation of the Roman commander. And the story goes like this. It happened that the Romans managed to take captive a Spartan named Demipus, who sailed on a ship from the city. Syracusans wanted to ransom him and offered Marcellus negotiations. During the meeting, the naval commander noticed one of the defensive towers that was not as well guarded as the others. Since the negotiations took place not far from it, Marcellus managed to estimate its height accurately enough, and on his return to the stakes, gave the order to prepare the ladders. Choosing a day when the city massively celebrated some holiday, The Romans, imperceptibly for the enemy, seized the tower, and even before dawn occupied the entire wall on the site, and went on the attack. When the Syracusans realized what had happened, they turned to disorderly flight and could not offer any decent resistance. The city was looted and plundered. Neither Marcus Claudius Marcellus nor Appius Claudius wanted this to happen. However, they could not stop the soldiers from taking revenge even if they'd ordered it. The resentment for the losses and hurtful defeats under the walls of the city was too great. But the greatest loss to mankind in those days was the death of Archimedes. At that hour, when the city was burning, and on the street rampaging invaders, the great scientist was scrutinizing some drawing, when a Roman appeared in front of him and ordered him to go to the headquarters to the generals. Archimedes simply waved away the unexpected guest, saying that he would not go anywhere until he finished the job. The blood-excited warrior was outraged, drew his sword, and stabbed the scientist. There are several other versions of these tragic events, but the outcome of all of them was sad. So fell a great city, and with it one of the most prominent people of his time.